Namaste. Welcome to this series of talks from Heart to Heart, Volume 1 by Pujya Shri Chariji Maharaj. Now he is moved from USA to Montreal, Canada. This is the series of lecture from August 14 to August 18, 1987. Let us begin the first talk in this series in Canada, A Dog's Life, August 14th, 1987. Thank you, sisters and brothers of Canada, and all of you assembled here for your kind welcome. I had hoped to see more of the Quebec Abhasis, but perhaps they will be here tomorrow. Today I shall only say a few words to express my appreciation with my brother Luke. Because I know how difficult it is to organize something with a smaller group of Abhasis here, so that we are able to be here is a testament to their work. It is necessary that we meet often, at least that is what it seems. My master, Babuji Maharaj, used to say that when a fire is lit, it sort of burns down, and when somebody has to poke it and blow it up again. So that is what we achieve at these meetings, because inevitably there is some sort of dying down of interest, of enthusiasm with the passage of time. One only hopes that such meetings could be possible even more frequently. But I don't see why the stimulation should not come from within your own groups. Perhaps the secret is that, like you have a metal poker to poke up a fire, which is wood, and a lot of ash, here also you need something which will not itself burn out during the process. I am eagerly awaiting the development of such pokers in our local groups, because I know the raw material is there. In most cases, such persons are too shy to put themselves forward, and we have this funny idea of humility and things like that, But in that context, we must remember what my master always said: humility in one's inner attitude, forcefulness in one's work, and faith in the master. So these three should be combined in our attitude towards our work. Humility does not mean shyness or self-effacement. Even in India, we find, at least in some of the old houses, they used to have doorsteps 4 feet tall, so that you have to stoop to go under them. That was supposed to be humility. But my master used to say that if you are having faith in him, if you have courage in yourself, confidence in the work, and absolute unshakable willpower, in some way they operate like the 4 fingers of the hand you see, the 5th being the master himself. Then there is this attitude that we can walk erect, head held proudly up, proudly in the sense not stooping in this false idea of humility. And that is a perfect expression of the real inner attitude of humility. Unfortunately, I think all the great religions have combined or conspired to give us a wrong idea of humility. I do not see how a worker can efface himself. All that he can try is to project the work as his master's work, and then he doesn't exist anymore. So that is the real essence of humility, that everything that we do, if we do in the consciousness that this is the master who is working, we don't exist, and therefore there can be no arrogance, no pride, nothing in us if we work in the consciousness that it is the master who is working. We cease to exist. Then how can you be proud or humble? So we achieve that state where we transcend both the opposites. So of such a person, you cannot say that he is humble or he is proud. He is what he is, and that is what his master made him. So I would like all of you to think of this and step forward in the master's work, because work done for the master cannot in any way harm us. The work of the master done in his remembrance cannot in any way spoil our character. The work of the master done with the faith in the master can never be a failure. and the work of the Master, done with the will of the Master, working through us, must have results as He wanted them to have. In such a way, do we become perfect workers for the Master, able to achieve perfect results for humanity without our having any consciousness that we are doing something or achieving something. To my mind, the greatest benefit is this, that failure or the idea of failure can never affect us, because I have a suspicion all this shyness and modern unwillingness to come forward is not so much humility as fear of failure. That is what holds us down, and therefore you may excuse my saying it. It is the exact opposite of humility. It is egoism which prevents our stepping forward. Egoism, not in French sense, means selfishness in French, but the attitude of rejecting oneself. So you see how we hide behind these concepts, and when we approach people who have the capacity, who have the ability, who have the time to do His work, invariably they say, "But you know, I am sorry, Chari, I am too humble a person to be involved in all this." Now you have all seen, most of you have seen Babuji Maharaj. If you study his life, I don't think you could ever say he was humble or proud, arrogant, or the opposite. He had nothing of these things in him. To my way of thinking, the only thing I could see in him was the tremendous courage that he had in his own capacity, given to him by his Master. A total faith in his Master and an invincible will, so that being a humble, very average Indian, he could yet step forth into the West. He could still come out to the West and establish so many centers here, you see. Had he thought of himself, his success, or the possibility of his failure, which was very, very large, he could never have left Shahjahanpur. It is our good fortune. It is our tremendous good fortune, you see, that frail, physically weak, very average person had the tremendous faith and the courage in his Master, which is what brings us all together here today. So, should we not emulate him? Should we not copy him? I think what prevents us from trying is our education, which we don't want to risk by saying foolish things. The idea of our being wise, which makes us unwilling to do foolish things. The idea of our material success, which does not want us to risk failure in this field. And the idea of our greatness, which will not risk a fall by entering the arena of spirituality. Therefore, my Master Babuji always said, be simple and in tune with the nature. Then there is no risk, nothing to lose. You know, anything you do can only be a profit. I think it is for this reason that in India, in the ancient Hindu tradition, it was necessary for sannyasis to beg for their existence, to beg before people for their food. But why was this necessary? Perhaps you see, one aim or one idea was to erase the ego of the individual. Perhaps the other one was to teach them that you could never fail, because even if you got 1 grain of rice by begging, it was a profit. And the third thing, you begged not from the people but out of faith in your God or your Master, because He is the one gives, not the people around us. It was necessary. You know, the great Swami Vivekananda, he went around like that. It is called the life of Parivrajaka. The life of the Parivrajaka, where you go around the country on foot, eating what you get, sleeping under a tree, and no attachment. He is not allowed to stay more than 3 nights in one place, because people do become fond even of sannyasis. And if you stay more than 3 days, you get attached to them, they get attached to you, and life once again becomes certain in the sense that you have a place to sleep and food certainly at your doorstep every morning. So if you think over this carefully, what we are really taught is to forget this idea of certain or predictable existence for the morning. What is really what it really means is we are trained in the ability to face the unknown, and the absolute unknown is God. So this is a technique of facing God each and every day, each and every moment out of our existence. Modern education has made us perfect in facing man, and in that process has removed the capacity for us to face God. Now we have to reverse the process. Forget human beings, face him in every moment of your existence. And how do you really face someone? We all work for somebody, and when you have done some work which you are not happy with, the common feeling is, how am I to face my boss? So in a sense you can say this fear of facing the boss is a result that we know we have not done very well. So when we are afraid of facing God, we know we have not done too well here as human beings. Along comes the master from Shahjahanpur and says, there is only one way of removing this fear. Live as he ordered us to live. Be his children. Live in the consciousness that you are part of him. And if you are able to do this, you will be progressively divinized, you see. You will be divinized stage by stage, and then there is no fear of facing your Father and your God, because they are one. And the easiest way, as my master often said, is to get involved in his work. Under his training, we go ahead doing his work. He is there to guide us at every point, and we become more and more capable of doing his work with his guidance, with his assistance, with his love. And then we find there is no more fear. It is only like a dog which reams ahead of its master on the streets, but is always turning back to look at its master for his guidance. You have seen this. It only wants to be a few paces away, look around, bark, and go forward another few paces. Look around and bark, wag its tail, you see. So we must go ahead of the master like his dogs. And it is not something bad or undesirable, lest the girls think it is something you know. What is this? He wants us to be dogs? He chuckles. I could tell you so many stories about dogs. For instance, Master himself said, reverse dog and it becomes God. So we must have the attitude of the dog, love for Master, faith in the Master, obedience of the Master. This is what an Abhyasi is expected to have. You know, Babuji has said there are 3 requirements for an Abhyasi: love the Master, satsang with the Master, and obedience of the Master. What is the difference? The same things, you see. So we must become as if we are the perfect dog before him. It eats when he gives it food. The perfect dog eats only when the master feeds it. If a stranger comes and gives something, it will not take. If the master says sit and he goes away, 3 days later it must still be sitting there. When he says come, it goes with him. It does not ask, where are you going? Why are you going? When will you come back home? It is a funny thing that in one of our big stories in the Mahabharata, the epic Mahabharata, the war is over and the 5 brothers are going to heaven, and one by one they all fall. Only the eldest brother, who is called Dharmaputra, the son of Dharma. How do you say Dharma? You know, righteousness. How do you say the righteousness in French? He alone is going towards heaven, and the dog is following him. When he reaches the gates of heaven, the concierge, he says, you can come, but not your dog. Dharmaputra says, without the dog I will not come. Then miraculously the dog becomes his own father, Dharma himself, the Lord of Dharma, the God of Dharma, who in Hinduism also the God of death. He praises his son because he would not abandon a dog which has followed him so long. Our master is like that, you see. If you follow him, how can he leave us behind? So you see, there is much merit in being like a good dog. And we all like dogs precisely for this reason, that they love us without making demands on us, which is another hint that an Abhyasi must love the master without making demands upon the master, because the dog can sit with the faith that its master will surely feed it. There is no written guarantee. Can we have less faith in our master? We are talking so much of the love of the master, the greatness of the master, his divinity, and if something goes wrong with our jobs, with our money, with our profession, immediately we stop Sahaj Marg and we say, no, you see, I started Sahaj Marg and everything is going wrong for me. It is a very sad thing. Not because such persons have stopped Sahaj Marg, but because it shows how low has been their attitude towards the master. That he is our master when everything is nice, when we are healthy, when our business is profitable, when our wives are loving us, when our children are obeying us. But one day, if one plane stops in Chicago for 4 hours, I say, where is the master? So we are not really dogs. Excuse me saying it. We are less than dogs. So this is the unfortunate state of Abhyasis who evaluate the efficacy of the system not by what it does to us, but by what it gives us. What we get, we earn. Also in the spiritual field, of course, the only difference is in the worldly life our boss measures exactly a little less. What he should give us. Our divine boss gives with both hands. Take whatever you want, take as much as you can. Still, it is a tragedy that we prefer the material boss and abandon the spiritual boss. So this is the message that you must all remember for yourselves, and it is the teaching that you have to put in your hearts for yourself again, because until we are strong in our faith, in our dependence on the master, we cannot possibly teach others. So this is what we must remember. I hope we will all be able to develop this sort of inner dependence, inner faith, inner courage, and go forward bravely in his work, because it is his work we are doing. It is his will which is working, and the result that he has ordained cannot possibly not be achieved. So what have you to worry about? Thank you for listening. Here we complete the narration of the lecture, Dog's Life. We will commence in our next narration video the second talk subject, change.